A renovated Stade Saputo or a brand new stadium for CF Montreal? If so, where? The coach was asked about Mason Toy. Safe to say he didn't give a ringing endorsement. And two veterans have come out and told the media, help, we need somebody, help. I need help too. That's why I can't do it alone. I'm Marinaro, Filosa, and DeFalco joining me coming up on the Sick Podcast, CF Montreal Talk.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. CF Montreal Talk.
Here's the chance. They've got the goal. Absolutely incredible. Cameron Porter delivers the goal to send Montreal Impact into the CONCACAF Champions League semi-final.
The sickest CF Montreal podcast. It's gonna be sick.
All right, welcome. It's the Sick Podcast, CF Montreal Talk. Marinaro with Filosa to my left and Gavino DeFalco to my right. Guys, it was a couple of days ago on BPM Sports Radio, 91.9 on your FM dial that CF Montreal president Gabriel Gervais told Olivier Brett at FC 919 that in order to improve the fan game experience, they're in a period of analysis right now, and they're analyzing whether they should renovate Stade Saputo or just build a brand new stadium. Jeremy, you did some homework on this, and you wrote a piece on it, 98.5 FM. What did you come up with?
Well, listen, the first thing I'm going to tell you is, a lot of people are asking me about the Peel Basin. Can they take that spot that was supposed to be going to baseball? It looks like the Vimco is going to be developing that area. And to tell you the truth, they weren't really crazy about the idea of sharing the plan with the Montreal Baseball Project to start off with. Their bread and butter is building condos. That's what they want to do. That's where their money is. That's where their profit is. So the people that I'm talking to are telling me it's a very, very low chance that the Vimco will reopen that door for another sports project. So I don't think it's going to go there. But I think it surprises people because let's say the truth. This team has been conservative in terms of spending money since they've been in the MLS. And now to think that they're going to go out and spend $300, $400, $500 million on a brand new stadium. And we see how complicated it is with baseball. But at the same time, I think it was a good move on his part to come out and start putting pressure on the city because we know that they need their approval in order to start getting things going at Saputo Stadium.
Gavino, before we go to you, just so we can remind everyone, a little refresher here, but Stade Saputo was built in 2008. At the time, it was built at a cost of $17 million, where the Saputo family put down $7.5 million, and the rest was going to be financed over 25 years. Later on, years later, the Quebec government kicked in $23 million for the expansion of the stadium, which now sits about 19,600. Gavino?
Well, it's already considered an old stadium in the MLS, Saputo Stadium. You see, since 2008, it has been like 15 or 16 new stadiums in the MLS. So, look at the new stadiums in the MLS right now. St. Louis has one, Austin has one, Nashville has one, Cincinnati has one. So, it's brand new, but I don't believe it, guys. There's only 8,000 season ticket holders here in Montreal. So, try to build a new community, big fans, huge season tickets holders, and maybe one day we'll have those 20,000 season ticket holders. But right now, guys, I'm not believing it.
There's a lot of issues at Saputo Stadium, Tony. The first of all, there's not much around it. There are no restaurants, no bars, no boutiques for people to go around. All the new complexes, that's what they want to do. They want to build a stadium around an environment. Other issues that they have is with plumbing, electricity. That's a problem going there. They can't dig underground because there's a parking lot under. If they want to add a roof, the foundations right now cannot support it. So it's normal that they're thinking to themselves, if we put $100 million in this stadium, and in 5 years, 10 years, we find ourselves even more behind or still behind other clubs in terms of what they're doing, does it make sense to stay there in a stadium, mind you, that will never belong to them? Yeah. It will never belong to them.
Jeremy, I placed a few phone calls myself earlier this afternoon. I think we can all agree that if they were to relocate, if they were to build a brand new stadium, the ideal spot in the city would be that Peel Basin. Having said that, Jeremy, I'm going to tell you, and I called a couple of people in the business today. One of them reiterated the same information that you got to me, and that is, Tony, very, very slim chance, because the word on the street is the Vimco wants to go condos and they want to go residential and they don't want to know about anything else. That's one thing. On another note, I talked to somebody else also in the business, and I talked to them about, the construction of Stade Saputo. And they said to me, they said, when the stadium was built, it kept the fan in mind. The families are going to go to the stadium. They'll probably park at Olympic Park or park nearby. They'll walk up into the stadium. They'll go to their seats. They'll sit down. They'll watch a game. Maybe they didn't spend a lot of money on the stadium, but they're not going to pay a lot of money for the ticket. All that is fine and dandy. But what this one person told me was that in their opinion, it wasn't built to meet the needs of the corporate community. And this person said to me, I can't park my car there, go to a restaurant nearby with a customer or customers or clients, then walk up to the stadium and then go into a loge that would meet like a standard of a certain prestige that we want to have.
Listen.
And so that's a challenge.
So there's two things there. First of all, for the loges, I think there was a plan to destroy the northern part of the stadium and build 3 stories of suites, which would have met that quality. So that they can do if they want. And Saputo has expressed the need and the desire for the surroundings of the stadium to be elaborated, to be developed, where we can have restaurants. And from what I'm hearing is the Parc Olympique, they're open to that. The problem is, you see how slow things move at the Parc Olympique. It's endless. The roof has been broken for 25 years. We're still waiting to fix it. So Saputo can't sit around and wait for that. He cannot sit there and expect things to move with the RIO, because they won't. It's going to take forever.
Guys,
and he needs to move right away. Something needs to happen now.
If you build it, they will come. I think the number one issue, it's location. If it's going downtown, I agree with that. That's where the money is. That's where the action is. But don't talk to me about blue bonnets or whatever. Just leave the stadium where it is right now. It's downtown or nothing for me.
Guys, I'm going to make a prediction. I'm going to tell you this right now. And I said this earlier with Jean-Charles Lajoie on his radio show at BPM Sport. I told him, I said, Jean-Charles, write down this date and I'm going to make a prediction, all right? At one point here, and I don't know when it's going to be, whether it's going to be a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. I don't know. But my prediction is they stay where they are for now. But if they do stay where they are, Olympic Stadium is going to come down, guys. And I know that this has been talked about over the years, and people said, no, it's too much money, and they'll keep it there.
No,
They're
renovating it, Tony. They're putting all kinds of money into it.
Well, if it doesn't come down, Jeremy, then they're going to open it up somehow. They're going to get some facilities, like you said, like an Olympic Park. They're going to get restaurants there. They're going to concessions there. They're going to get food trucks there. They're going to open up stuff there.
That's the plan. But it's going to take forever. That's the reality. It's going to take forever. Mario
but even if you
Cecchini
do that, though,
said he saw the plans. Mario Cecchini said he saw the plans for Olympic Stadium and what it's going to look like inside when the seats are redone and everything. And he even said the Alouettes might consider going back to Olympic Stadium depending on how it's done. But I'm going to tell you something now that I've never said to anybody, okay? This is an information that I got years ago. It came from somebody that was working at City Hall. This person no longer works there. They've moved on, all right? And I asked him, why are you not making this deal? The guy is putting in $100 million in an infrastructure that belongs to the people, and he's asking for zero. The only
Can I guess the answer? Can I guess the answer?
Wait, hold on. The only thing he's asking for is, please don't increase my municipal taxes. That's all he's asking for, right? And the city has shied away from commenting this, from talking about this. Go ahead.
I'm going to write down the answer.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to tell you what I think they told you. Okay?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, give the answer they told you.
Okay, so the person told me the proposal is not a bad proposal. It's a good proposal. Okay. He's putting $100 million. It's going to remain in the property of the people and everything. We don't increase the taxes, but how is it going to look when this is announced that we have a deal that we're allowing them to put this money into the stadium to upgrade it? The way that the media is going to treat it is basically going to be the city of Montreal has made a deal with a white, rich, privileged man who can afford to pay his taxes. And this money is money that can be redistributed elsewhere. And so they were just like scared of repercussions, basically. What does it say? He doesn't need it. He's a billionaire. Voila. Exactly. So
I
they're
already
scared
saw that
of,
one coming from a mile away.
so that's the reason why they've shied away from this. And
It's
you
a
know what?
stupid answer, by the way. It's a stupid answer.
Well, listen, people write to me and tell me, politics shouldn't get involved in sports and this and that. I would like to remind you that Yankee Stadium was partly built with the money of the city of New York. And yes, the Steinbrenners are also billionaires. But you know what? I don't think anybody right now in New York says, man, that was a bad move. All these people coming to watch the Yankees day in and day out, terrible for our city.
Gavino,
it happens everywhere.
And Jeremy, I would like to let all these people at City Hall and the city of Montreal know that the Saputo family has many, many, many businesses in Montreal. They employ thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of employees. And you know what? They don't have to do it here. They do it because they live here, but they could very well move their businesses out of Montreal just like that. And then the city is going to lose out on so much manufacturing, so much distribution, so much jobs, so much revenue, so much money coming in from income taxes. And then it's going to go somewhere else. Are they going to be a lot happier if they do that? You know what? They've made an investment. They deserve to get some money back. I think the city should work with them. Anyway,
I agree.
I'll end it with this, okay? We know that they don't have the most modern stadium, right? We also know that you and you, Gavino, and myself, we're three very, very passionate soccer fans that we don't really care what the stadium looks like. We don't really care what seat we sit on. You know, we would go watch them play at Riverside Park in LaSalle if we had to, okay? That's not a problem. Unfortunately, not everyone is like us three. Not everyone shares our passion or our love for the game or the team or the city or whatever, okay? Having said all that, even though the stadium is a little bit outdated and this and that, and it's not the nicest stadium in the world, nobody talked about the stadium when Didier Drogba was scoring 1, 2, and 3 goals a game. Nobody.
Even last year, Tony, 7 sellout crowds in their last 10 games. But the challenge here is to sell out from April to November until the playoffs. So that's a big challenge because the weather is not nice here in Montreal, 12 months a year. So that's a challenge right now. And but you said it. If Joey Saputo and his family are not in Montreal, we don't have professional soccer here in Montreal, Tony. That's the bottom line.
The only problem is
a winning season, Jeremy, is not guaranteed, right? I just want to pick up on what Gavino said. It's not guaranteed, but if you have a star power name,
of course,
right? You can. Last year, CF Montreal finished second in the East, and they went to the playoffs and they played a round. Correct me if I'm wrong. If they would have had 2 rounds, correct. If they would have had a Drogba last year, okay, and they wouldn't have made the playoffs, you don't think there would have been a bigger buzz?
They would have sold out from the beginning instead of from the middle of the season because that's what a star player is going to bring you. But that's their philosophy. That's the way they want to go. I think they're completely wrong on this issue. Completely wrong because I think they are not listening to what their fans are telling them. Tony, I'm going to repeat this for the millionth time. The question I get the most on my social media or when I run into people in the street is, when are we going to get a star player? It's basically the only question people ask me. So this is what your fans are asking for. Now it's up to you to listen to your fans or to ignore them. That's it.
All right, guys.
The good news is this transfer window is not closed yet. We have some hope until April.
We're going to talk about reinforcements in a minute, but before we get there, Mason Toye is a player that CF Montreal acquired a couple of years ago, has scored some goals, but has not got any minutes 2 games into the season. The coach was asked about it. What's going on with Mason Toye? Let's listen and watch.
Oui, Mason, il a perdu beaucoup de matchs sur la préparation. Il était 2 fois blessé avec 2 petites choses. L'année passée, il a marqué 2 buts. Il a commencé 8 matchs. Donc,
vous avez besoin d'en voir plus.
Non, je pense que dans ce moment-là, aujourd'hui, il y a des autres attaquants qui sont en meilleures conditions que lui. Ça ne veut dire pas que Mason il a des conditions. J'ai regardé tous les matchs de l'année dernière. Il a commencé 4 fois dans l'attaque avec Romel Kyoto. J'ai regardé tous les 4 matchs. Donc, je connais Mason très bien. Mais j'espère que toute la qualité qu'il est, il va arriver. Mais l'année passée, il a pas fait grand-chose.
Ça a été difficile.
Translation, Mason last year scored a couple of goals. He played 8 games. This year, he took a couple of knocks during training camp. He was hurt on 2 different occasions with 2 different knocks. He's not in the best of shape or condition because of that setback. And right now, there's other strikers that are ahead of him. Jeremy?
Listen, I admire the fact that the coach was honest with us, and I don't have a problem with the fact that he thinks that right now other guys are ahead of him. Would I have said it the way he said it? No. I mean, he's still a young player. You don't want to destroy his confidence. Obviously, when you come out and say, I watched him play last year, honestly, I didn't see anything from him. The kid's going to hear this. It's going to be hard on him, for sure. But I have to respect the fact that he thinks at this moment that other guys are better than him. The only thing I would also say is, if you're not scoring goals, try everybody.
But guys,
try
isn't
whoever.
it
You might get a spark somewhere.
Isn't it Losada's job to bring Mason Toy's confidence to maximum right now? I don't know why Losada's throwing like Toy under the bus. He haven't played 1 game, haven't played a minute, and who's laughing right now? Maybe Mason Toy's laughing because he's looking at the numbers. 2 games, no goals, and I haven't played a minute. Guys, like you said, Tony, a couple of weeks ago, Mason Toy maybe is going to be traded. But don't forget that 2 years ago, when he scored 7 goals in 14 games, this guy was maybe on the U.S. national team radar. And
Nice.
2 years after, not playing a minute. Something's
Listen,
in the air, guys. Something's in the air.
Mason Toy needs to play on the left side. He likes to cut into the axe. He likes to cut into the middle and hit with his right foot to the second post. He has not been playing on the left side of the field in nearly 2 years now. That's where he feels most comfortable.
Yeah.
I don't understand why we don't try him there.
But at the same time, Losada's saying that there was no chemistry between Kyoto and Toy in the 4 games that he saw last year on video. But who had that chemistry with Kyoto? Well, he's playing for Chicago right now.
Well, okay. So anyway, let's move on from Kai Kamara, but I hear you. But let's just say this is that, okay, so I told you guys at the beginning of the year that Mason Toy is in the doghouse. I told you guys that Mason Toy has been shopped. And I told you guys that Mason Toy is not in the plans. Things can change. 1 or 2 players get hurt. All of a sudden, boom, you end up getting a minute because you need players. You score some goals. Things can change. Until then, I say this, though. I understand everything the coach said about the training camp. I understand everything the coach said about the injuries. And I understand everything the coach said about his shape not being up to par right now. On that note, if he says it, he's right. No problem. I don't understand why he brought up his performances last year. Last year, the coach of the team was not Losada. That Mason Toy didn't have chemistry with Kyoto last year under a different coach with different teammates. It's a different year. I don't understand the need to bring it up. When a new coach comes in, everyone is supposed to start fresh, not what happened a year ago. And if the coach is going to say, well, I watched Mason a year ago, well, I'm going to tell you this. I watched Sanusi a year ago. He would have a hard time scoring in a PLSQ game, okay? Now, what did Ofer do last season? And by the way, I like Sanusi. I'm not saying that to put him down, but last year was last year. This year was this year. I believe Sanusi deserves an opportunity, but I believe Toy deserves an opportunity too. Guys, I saw Ofer the first game. He didn't play too many minutes. What I saw, it piqued my curiosity. When I saw him the second game, I didn't like him as much as I liked him the first game. His coordination looked way off. And I've said this before, and I know that until he plays, until he actually proves it, I cannot be told I'm right. And until it happens. But I'm telling you right now, and I haven't seen Jules Anthony Vilsaint play in a couple of years, but the Jules Anthony Vilsaint that I remember has a higher ceiling than all these other forwards with the exception of Kyoto right now.
Well, let's try him out. We don't lose nothing by trying him out.
Like
we tried Sunusi, we tried Ofer. I know that it's a small sample. The only forwards that didn't play since the start of the season, like you said, is the young player Jules Anthony Vilsaint and maybe a proven goal scorer with Mason Toy 2 years ago, not the last year. Last year, he scores the first game in Seattle, scores 2 goals, and then he gets in a slump for 2 months. I don't know what happened, but
did you guys have a chance to ask Losada where he sees Mason Toy? Because a couple of days ago, I asked him last week actually, I asked him where he saw Jules-Anthony Vilsain. He said he saw him as a 9, either playing with 1 striker or 2 forwards, but he saw him as a 9. Nathan Saliba played game 1 as a 10. He played game 2 as a 6, and he's told the media that he believes he's an 8, which, by the way, I agree with him. I believe he's an 8 too. Yeah. Jeremy, have you asked where he sees Mason Toy? Because you just talked about putting him on the left.
No, listen, I mean, clearly with the answer he gave us, he didn't want to elaborate more on Mason Toy. Gavino asked him after the game on Saturday. I asked him yesterday, and I think he's done with talking about Mason Toy. But what I'm going to try to do, if I have a chance to talk to the coach off mic, is I will try to tell him what I just told you guys now and say, you do what you want, just letting you know that if you go back a little bit in those tapes, and instead of looking at just what he did last year, but you go back 2-3 years, you're going to notice that when he's playing on the left side, he's much, much more comfortable and much more effective.
But guys, maybe Losada talked with the star player Kyoto and asked him, with who are you more comfortable? Maybe he said maybe Sunusi, maybe he said the Ofor, maybe a Toy didn't came out in the conversation. I don't know. Just speculating right now.
Well, I'd like to see him get his opportunity, that's for sure. All right, okay, speaking of the team, a couple of games in, several young players have got in, and they got action, of course. Nathan Saliba started game number 1. He came out at the 45-minute mark. He was playing as a 10. And then Sean Rea moved into the 10 hole between the 60-minute mark to around the 90-minute mark. Game 2, Sean Rea started the game as one of 2 10s. Nathan Saliba started the game as a number 6 next to Victor Wanyama. And near the end of the game, also Reda Zouir came in. So there's a lot of young players. Jonathan Sirois was absolutely fantastic last game. I think we can all understand and applaud the fact that there's young players who have made this team, and they're going to give them some playing time. However, it looks like they gave some of them maybe too much too soon, and maybe it looks like the team needs some reinforcement. Jeremy, you asked Rudy Camacho and Victor Wanyama about this, did you not?
Yes, exactly. And Rudy Camacho, honestly, was very frank and honest about the situation. He said, listen, if this is the plan to play all these young guys, we're going to have to be extremely patient because they're not going to be able to turn it on and off right away. But he said, we don't have that time. Rudy said, I want to win this weekend. I want to win right now.
Yeah.
So when I asked him, or do you guys need any help? He said, any acquisition right now would help us. Okay, listen, guys, I don't have a problem with bringing in young players. I think it's part of the process. I love the fact, for example, that Jonathan Sirois played 2 years in the CPL, and he's ready. And he's there right now, and he's performing. Great. I like the fact that Sean Rea played 2 years in the CPL. We see him on the field right now. He belongs. Great. No problem. But more than that, guys, more than 2 guys a year, and especially if you had 2 other guys that had also played CPL and were performing on the field the way these 2 guys have played, maybe even you had a 3rd player. But when you have 8 rookies on the bench out of 20 in one game, of course, guys like Rudy Camacho and Victor Wanyama are going to scratch their heads and say, playing young guys, but how many at the same time?
But Jeremy, to this argument, we know that our friend Patrice Bernier, former member of the Montreal Impact, came out and said, hey, look at Kone, guys. He didn't have a lot of experience prior to, but I would like to say that,
and he made some mistakes at the beginning of the season, Cody. Don't forget, guys.
But I would love to say to Patrice, and I think Patrice would probably agree with this. Kone is Kone, guys. With all due respect to the other players that we're talking about, okay? They're not Ishmael Kone. They never were, and they probably never will be. And by the way, I hope for them that they will be, but I doubt it, guys. Kone has been special for, the last 10 years.
The guy skipped right over PLSQ, skipped right over CPL, went into the MLS, and could hold his ground. I mean,
Jeremy, he played 5 games of U21. 5 games at U21 AAA.
So these are exceptional players, but you can't judge and base how you develop young players by taking one exceptional player and saying, this is what he did. This is not the normal process for a young player.
I asked Amar Sejdic 2 years ago. 2 years ago, while Kone was still practicing with the CF Montreal, didn't have a pro contract yet. I asked Sejdic, so who's the player who impresses you the most in practice? He goes, Ismail Kone. So Kone is a phenom, guys.
Yes,
don't
the players
compare
don't.
Saliba or Rea to Kone. Kone is a special player. We will never have those kind of players again. It happens once in a lifetime. From practice player to the World Cup in a span of 18 months.
Don't ever say we'll ever have them again. Okay.
Okay, all right.
Tony, practice player to the World Cup in 18 months?
No, that's an exceptional situation. All I'm saying is don't say you'll never have a player of that talent again, because the goal obviously is to have one. But his situation will never be replicated again. You'll never see that.
Okay.
From U21 to practice player to pro player, less than 2 years.
Yeah.
And then on to,
the first player coming out the bench, guys. First player coming off the bench from John Redmond, Ismail Kone. Always.
Okay, based on practice of what we saw this week, now this is unofficial, folks. Joel Waterman is back. It looks like, if we were to say right now, and it can change, but it looks like Jonathan Sirois in goal, a three-man back line of Camacho with Miller to his left and Waterman to his right. In front of them, Wanyama with Chouanière, with Herrera at right wing back and Lapalainen at left wing back, and Kyoto on the left, Hamdi on the right, and Sunusi Ibrahim up top. That's what it looks like right now. It can change, guys.
Yeah, it can change. I mean, this is something that we saw on Tuesday at practice, right? So, I mean, it doesn't mean that's going to be the starting lineup. There's a few things that I like. There's a few things that I don't like. I've told you guys, I'm not crazy about Lassie playing as a left back, but
there's no option, guys, right now.
There's no option.
Quizera's out.
Quizera's out long term. By the way, hopefully the MLS puts him on the injured list so that media know what the heck is going on. But that's another situation. Piet is doubtful for Saturday. Doesn't mean he won't be there, but he's doubtful. He took a knock in the last game. He trained in the gym this week. They're trying to be, they're trying to be careful with him right now. I'd like to see Hamdi in the middle. I'm not crazy about Sunusi either. I would put Hamdi as a 10. I would play with two strikers, Kyoto, and maybe a guy like Mason Toy, but clearly that's not going to be the case. Or even Jules-Anthony Vilsaint. Let's see what he's got.
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy for Hamdi, guys. I saw him at practice at Tuesday. He had some wheels. He had some finish. He was clinical in the final third. I know it's only practice, but give him a chance. He's making a lot of money in this league, so let's try him out.
Even though I think Reyes' performances have been good and he probably deserves a little bit better, to be completely honest, I don't mind that he's starting on the bench, because sometimes, you come off the bench, you can be a sort of super sub. You can have a little bit more spark that maybe you wouldn't have if you started the game.
Yeah,
I will say this. What I do.
He admitted that this week, and he said it was easier for me coming off the bench playing against tired players. So maybe that's the way that you want to, smooth him in.
What I do like is that Chouanière is playing as a 6 alongside Wanyama, or maybe a little bit more advanced, where he could be kind of like a 6-8 hybrid.
Yeah.
But I prefer to see Chouanière closer to his goal than closer to the other team's goal, to be really honest with you. It's just my personal preference.
Yeah,
and at least you got more experience on the bench and on the pitch right now. To play against Nashville, who's very well balanced, well coached, is going to take some players with experience for this game to have a point or 3 in Nashville.
They don't have 8 rookies in the lineup. I could tell you that much.
No. Well, look, but I will tell you this: I do envy the fact that CF Montreal guys last year, the team, they tried to play. This year, it's still early. A new coach. They're going to try to play. You can tell that they want the ball. They want to be able to possess the ball. Versus Nashville, you're going to have to try and score first, guys, okay? And I know they haven't scored a goal after 2 games, because Nashville, they're the type of team that if they score first, they can close the game 1-0. There aren't a lot of teams in the MLS that can win a 1-0 game, because the league is known for making some mistakes out of the back. The league is known for maybe not investing as much in the back. The league is known for being offensive. The league is known maybe for missing a little bit of balance between offense and defense. But Nashville's the one team that if they take a goal, if they give you a goal, if they score a goal, they can close the game 1-0. Okay, so if Montreal could score first, I think they could take Nashville out of their comfort level. If Nashville scores first, it'll be tough.
Nashville last year was known for the fact that they didn't score many goals, but they especially didn't give up any goals. So that's the type of team they are.
Montreal never won against Nashville. 3 loss, 2 ties. You battle for the ball. You battle for every inch out there. So it's going to be physical, I expect. And you're going to play against probably one of the best defender in the MLS, as my friend Walker Zimmerman. And if Ani Mukhtar, who, by the way, was MVP in the league last year, is 100%, it's going to be tough. Like you said, Tony, if you concede in the first 5 minutes, it might be ugly.
He's Gavino DeFalco, Jeremy Filosa to my left. I'm Marinaro. CF Montreal will be in Nashville on Saturday night. And then after that, they'll come back to Montreal, where they're going to have their Olympic Stadium opener when they're going to host the Philadelphia Union. Then they'll go back on the road, and then they'll come back eventually to Stade Saputo. That's it for us. Tell all your friends about it. It's the Sick Podcast, CF Montreal Talk. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's absolutely free. And follow us on Twitter at SickPod CFMTL. Bye for now.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast, CF Montreal Talk on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.